A historic Virginia church where George Washington worshipped has announced it will remove a plaque honoring our first president.
That's right. The church issuing this statement explaining the plaques in our sanctuary make some in our presence feel unsafe or unwelcome. Some visitors and guests who worship with us choose not to return. All right, the question is, where do we draw the line on this? We've seen this with the Confederate statues, and now we're moving on to the Founding Fathers. Here now to weigh in is New York City Councilman Joe Borelli. I mean, when you talk to people, we've seen the surveys. With Confederate monuments, there was a little bit more leeway, but when it came to the Founding Fathers and scrubbing them because they owned slaves, people were roundly against this. What do you say?
Well, this is sort of the slippery slope mentality that people were warning against when this first conversation about the Confederacy monuments came up. I wish I can get myself all worked up in anger over this, but the truth is, I mean, this is just sad. Is nothing sacrosanct about our national history when we have George Washington now potentially on the chopping block? I mean, the truth is there's a liberal minority in this country who applauds when we tear down our statues, who rolls their eyes at our national anthem, who disrespects our flag, and now they're just all too eager to see these memorials to someone who sacrificed so much to deliver our country to us, and they're just on the sidelines applauding it. It's appalling.
Well,
it really is.
My question is, what are history books going to look like in 10, 20 years? What are we going to be teaching the kids of the future? Are we going to be erasing history?
Right. You know, there was a time when kids were just taught to accept George Washington as a hero, to accept people like Jefferson and Lincoln as great men. We used to sing patriotic songs in school. We used to wave flags at Veterans Day parade. These things are now seeming more like nostalgia than reality, and we have an angry minority on the left side of our country who is just too eager to see this happen.
And it's a very, very small minority. I mean, this, you cannot, blanket this over anybody on the left. I mean, this is a very far radical left-wing group that's really pushing all this, and I think everybody's scared of them and is scared of offending anybody, and that's how they get so much leverage.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is what happened to this church over the past few years. If you still go on the church's website this morning, they're advertising this connection to George Washington almost like a tourist trap. They wanted people to come and visit the church. They wanted to be this church to be a part of our national identity. What happened overnight that suddenly people are triggered by a memorial that simply says, in memorial of George Washington? This is not a menacing statue in any way. This is not a menacing threat to anyone in the congregation. And it was something that the congregation itself was so proud of for so long.
Well, right, and it's where he sat. It's the pew where he sat. That's where this memorial is. He sat there for a very long time, a number of years. So you're just, I don't even know if I say erasing, maybe editing history.
No, and if you look at the history of our country, obviously Washington stands, first among equals, essentially. But if you look at the history of even this church, this is someone who put his own money, put his own time and effort into building this church in 1773. And here, 240-odd years later, this church is just erasing the contributions that he made for the church. It's for them, but for us, it's our country.
You look back through history at people that lived hundreds of years ago and hold them to today's standards, you're going to find very few of them are going to make the grade. Are we just going to erase all that history around the world?
Look, if you want to find a city with perfect statues, I'd show you a city with no statues at all.
That's right. Okay, Joe, thank you so much.